Okay, this video is going to help you practice a couple of times with completing this square. If you have not already watched the other video that was titled CCA 8.2.5 8-98, I highly suggest going and looking at that. It goes over problem 98 from the homework, or not the homework, but the in-class work, and it is from the lesson that we're talking about here, and it's going to hopefully make a little bit of sense before we get into this. In this, when I'm practicing them moving forward, I'm not actually going to be using the algebra tiles. I'm just going to be drawing pictures of them that represent the algebra tiles, but I'm actually going to be using them. So, continuing on then, if we have a problem, say it was 0 equals x squared plus 6x minus 3. If I wanted to complete the square with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my -3 and move it off to the side. So I'm not going to worry about that -3 right now. Just move it off to the side. So if I have an x squared and 6x's, that means there's my x squared. And my 6x's, if I'm building a square, I need to have 3 of them on each side. So now I have an x and a 1 and a 1 and a 1, which makes an x plus 3. And on the other side, I also have an x and a 1 and a 1 and a 1, which also gives me x plus 3. So I'm now building an x plus 3 square. But I have not completed the square yet. I have not finished the square. In order to complete the square, I need to fill in this section right here. So if I have 3 on this side and 3 on this side, in order to complete the square, I need to add 9 unit tiles. So that's what I've done right here. I've added 9 unit tiles. Please notice that those 9 were not part of the original problem. Everything in blue was the original problem. So if I added 9, that means I need to subtract away 9 as well, because these equals 0, and I have not altered the problem. I still have my x squared, my 6x, and my -3 from the original problem, but now I've added 9 and subtracted 9 in order to build my square. So now, looking at my equation and my diagram, I have a square. In the parentheses here is my square. You can look at the diagram. I have my x squared, my 3x is here, and 3x is here, giving me my total of 6x. And then I have my 9, which is this 9 right there. So my square is now set up as an x plus 3 square. If we would go through and factor this, it would factor into x plus 3 times x plus 3, which is an x plus 3 square. On the outside of the square, I added 9 here, which means I would have 9 negative tiles on the outside as well. And then I had this -3 initially as well. So now, if I would combine those, I'm going to get minus 12. There's my equation. If you think of graphing form as well, my graphing form, my vertex is given to me as right here, -3, -12. That is now my vertex. So I'm going to give you another problem. If the problem was 0 equals x squared plus 4x plus 1, if you need to go through and complete the square, what would you do? So I'd like you to pause the video. I'm going to stop talking for a couple of seconds. Pause the video, try it, and then play it and see how you did. Okay, hopefully you paused it and tried some here. first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this plus 1 and move it off to the side. I'm then going to take my x squared and my 4x's and start building a square. If I have 4 x's, that means I'm going to add 2 x's to each side. So I'm building an x plus 2, x plus 2 square. To complete the square, I need to fill in this section. So how many do I fill in? I'm going to fill in 2 by 2, which is going to be adding 4. To balance the equation out, if I added 4, I need to also subtract 4. And my square is now an x plus 2 square. X plus 2, x plus 2. That is my product. Outside of the square, I have negative 4 plus 1, which is minus 3. That is my equation. My vertex is going to be at negative 2, negative 3. If I want to solve for my x-intercepts, I could go through and solve this for x by moving the 3 to the other side, taking the square root, getting my square root of 3. I get 2 solutions, a positive and a negative, and then I would subtract the 2. But right now, for this lesson, we want to put it in graphing form. We want to make sure we understand our x-intercepts and our vertex mostly. I'm going to give one more problem to attempt. 0 equals x squared minus 8x plus 3. So again, pause, and I will come back in a second. Okay, so I'm going to take this positive 3, move it off to the side. I have my x squared. Now I have negative 8x's, which means I'm going to have a negative 4 on each side. So I'm building now an x minus 4 and an x minus 4 square. To complete the square, negative 4 times negative 4, though, is still positive 16. So I'm still adding 16 inside that square. Again, negative 4 times negative 4, if we think of our generic rectangle, gives us positive 16. If I added 16, I need to subtract 16 to balance it out. My square is now an x minus 4 square. And you can see that here, x minus 4, x minus 4. On the outside of that square, I combine that to be minus 13. There's my equation. 0 equals that. My vertex is at a positive 4 and a negative 13. I'm going to give a couple seconds again for you to pause this and see if you can solve for the x-intercepts, and then I'm going to go through and solve for the x-intercepts. Okay, I'm going to take a look now at solving for the x-intercepts. So the first thing I need to do is add 13 to both sides. So I now have 13 equals x minus 4 squared. I take the square root of both sides. So the square root of 13 is going to give me this decimal, 3.60555. I just want to look at the first 4 decimal places. That 5 rounds up the next number. If I want to go to 3 decimal places, because this is a 5, I round up this number to the next higher one. So the square root of 13 will be 3.606 approximately. And please don't forget the plus and minus. That is now my equation. That'll break down into, because of the plus and minus, that'll break into two separate equations. X, ooh, I put a plus. This should be a minus right here. That should be a minus. So I now have x minus 4 equals 3.606. And I have x minus 4 equals negative 3.606. For both problems, I'm going to add 4. So I'm going to get my two solutions of x equals 7.606. And my second solution will be x equals 0.394. So I now have my x-intercepts. I have my vertex.